Good morning. Between the Horns. Between the Horns. We are in New Meadows, Idaho today. We are heading north, right up of this direction. There's Granite Mountain over there. Got some snow on it. We're heading up to Grangeville, more specifically Whitebird area. Probably go over to Grangeville. It's been a while since I've been up there, but going up to Whitebird to look for some particular rocks today. I wanted to welcome you all along on this journey. Between the Horns. We're gonna get on down the road. We got some miles, about 82 to cover before we get to where we're going. It's 105 from Council up there. Then we'll head on back this afternoon. So there's Blitz. You say hi, Blitz? He's saying hi to Daddy. Buster's back, hidden back in his blankets back there somewhere. There he is. Hi, Busters. All right, we're gonna get on it, y'all. Blessings. We're back between the Horns. Hello. I'm gonna take you over and show you this view from where I'm at. Sorry if the camera's a little shaky. I'm walking over here and give you some context to where this is at. If any of you have ever been up Whitebird Hill, that's it right over there. See that truck, that red truck heading up the hill. Whitebird Pass going up over there. This is the old road I'm on. Yeah, that's the road I'm going up. They say 2,700 feet elevation and 7 miles, like that, 7% grade. Yeah, that's what's happening. We're on down the road. Last time we talked, we were in, let's see. Oh yeah, New Meadows. Clear up in New Meadows. Back down in New Meadows. Over in New Meadows. Hello. I'm Aaron Horn. This is Between the Horns with Aaron Horn. What's between the horns? Gratitude. Gratitude is between the horns today. Gratitude. What is gratitude? I'm learning. I'm not sure. I think it's the seeds that are planted in finding contentment. Not peace, but contentment. It's been a life changer for me. You hear me probably say, if you watch many of my videos, if you listen to me talk, you'll hear about gratitude. Because it has been a game changer for me. It kind of looks like this. You either have bitterness or you have gratitude. Bitterness, gratitude, or something looks like that anyway. It's kind of how I'm seeing it. Bitterness is something that's in the heart. It's something that courses through our veins just as much as gratitude does. Bitterness affects us in every way. If we choose bitterness, it courses through our veins and it affects us in every way. It affects our talk. It affects how we hear. It can even affect what we smell. Think I'm crazy? I think there's something to that. It affects a lot of our lives. But I lived there. I have lived there for a long period of my life, unaware, by definition, that that's who I was. I saw some things, I saw the way I acted towards certain people, but I didn't want to call it bitterness. Or I didn't know. I don't know. It's a ways back there, and I don't recognize that person anymore in myself. So it's like I just wonder, like, I can see how it affected so many areas of my life, is what I'm trying to say. But then one day I decided, or you could say God decided, something was going to be different. I wanted it different, but I didn't know how to find it. I had beat down a lot of doors, climbed a lot of trees, dug a lot of holes, trying to find peace. But slowly, through some help of both therapy work, being therapized, group programs that I've gone through with different parts of my what do we call it? I don't even know at this point. It's all kind of come to a head last year when I went to Utah, and through all these programs, I heard gratitude, 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 gratitude. And then I started remembering scriptures in the Bible that as I grew up as a child, hearing about gratitude. Oh boy, I'm wading through the waters here, so bear with me because I'm reliving this in this moment. I'm remembering a point that I slowly started to incorporate gratitude. I was reading a book at the time, in that time frame, about gratitude. Some of I have some people that I watch on YouTube that I like their content, and they were talking about gratitude, and I just slowly was like, one little piece of gratitude at a time. It was difficult at times. There was times when I was sitting in my camper in the winter. I can remember this one time when I was just starting to learn this, and I so to speak, I didn't really, but I picked up some gratitude in the middle of a pretty bleak situation that I was in. Physically at the moment, I'm not going to go into any details because that's not what this is really about. Mentally, I was in a dark spot. Financially, some of my very basic needs were strung out as I was. But I remember in that moment, I was learning this. I was learning how to just a little bit of gratitude. And in that moment, I remembered something that a friend had told me that lived in the RV park. She has since passed. Excuse me. She's had some hard times in her life. And she said to me one time, she said, I determined some point years before, she was in her 40s at the time, she'd had a hard life up into living on the street. I don't want to go into the details. Dark, hard stuff that most people would just give up. And she said, I realized in that moment that if I had a paper towel, a tortilla, and some cheese, I was going to survive. And I remember in that moment, I started thinking, like, well, she didn't even ask for the microwave. And I said to her later, we talked quite a bit about this, actually. I said, what about the microwave? And she goes, oh, that'd be the luxury. That'd be a luxury to get to melt it. And as I was sitting there that day, I was overwhelmed talking to her about that. But then later, as I'm sitting in my camper and going through this hard time and looking for some gratitude, it was this rush. Once I sat there and I said, okay, it's one thing that I can be grateful for. And it was snowing outside. It was cold. I remember it so well. And in that moment, my little heater was going. I have a little heater next to me that runs, and it was going, and I felt kind of warm for a minute. It was cold in my camper. This was before I learned how to live in a camper. That was the first winter I was here, and I just said in that moment, I've got a dry, warm place to sleep, and I was overcome with it. I was overcome with like this not only the warmth that I could physically feel, but this, to say it felt like a hug, a warm hug, a hug that you stick around more than 5 seconds for, a hug that it was just this reassurance that I was going to be okay in that moment. Just this little bit. I mean, you could say that's a lot, because even having a place to sleep, and for a lot of folks that don't even think about that on the normal, just that little bit that I picked up. Gratitude. It's a game changer, and it's slow. And I've talked with other friends of mine, people I know, gentlemen in the RV park. And by the way, finding gratitude isn't just sitting there and thinking about something. It's also going and doing things. I had a gentleman in the RV park, a young guy, is going through some addiction issues and hard times, and just to say it was rough. And I was talking to him about this, and I was telling him stories about how it works, and myself. And maybe as much as 2 months later, he came to me one night. He was walking by. I was outside smoking, and he walks by and he stops and he's talking to me. He says, "Hey, that works, by the way." I said, "What works?" And he goes, "That gratitude thing you talked to me about." He said, "I remember you telling me that if it's a hard day and I don't feel like I can make it, or I don't feel like I'm going to be okay, to find a little bit of gratitude and maybe go do something for somebody." And one of the things that worked for me that I had told him about was me going at the grocery store in town. There's only one, little. Not a lot else going on in town most of the time, depends. And I would walk up in the mornings. I'd intentionally get up, put on clothes, get around, just so I had something to do, or had my mind busy. And I would drive down there, and I'd kind of time it as I'd get out of my truck so that I could go and open the door up for somebody and tell them good morning, hello, good morning, and open the door up for them. That's one of the things I was doing. He told me, he said, "That works." He said, "The other day didn't want to get up." He said, "It was the middle of the day." He said, "I've been sleeping all day." He said, "I was in my bathrobe, my house slippers." And he said, "I was in a bad spot up here." And at the time, he was fighting his addiction hard. And he said, "I wanted to relapse." And he eventually did relapse. I pray for him every time I think of him, of you, if you're watching this, by the way. You know who you are. Still love him. I know he's going to make it okay. He said, "I got up, put on some clothes," and he said, he didn't have a vehicle. He said, "I walked down to the grocery store," and he says, "I went in and went up there and timed it so I could open it up for somebody." He said, "It works." He said, "I had a great day the rest of the days. People I said hi to, and got invited to go to lunch with somebody later." And he said, "It works." And I know it works because I can see it in me. You just tweak your mind. If you want to say that you're fooling yourself, you want to say you're tricking your mind, you are. But I got news for you. If you don't already know, that's all we're doing is tricking our minds. If our minds took over, we'd be screwed. People that do let their minds take over, it's a bad, bad train wreck someday, up into death. Yeah, I could go on about that. I won't. Gratitude works. I've never seen bitterness work. I've seen a lot of heard stories and seen situations where people died with nobody around them. Nobody there, nobody cared, nobody in the end gave a crap, because you can only be bitter for so long before you got to do something different. And if you don't, it kills you. It's part of the process of a long, hard death. I've watched it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You don't ever see long obituaries. Typically, you don't see long obituaries about people who were jerks. I've seen a lot of obituaries. I was raised by a woman that had to cut obituaries out and keep track of all the obituaries in town. So for some reason, that was the way life was back then. We didn't have internet, and so you cut that shit out and taped it on walls and gave it to people and laminated it. I don't know, put it in your Bible, family Bible. Seen a lot of obituaries in my time, what I'm trying to say here. And I don't see them where they say, Dad was the biggest jerk in the world. The only time you see those is if people are that angry where they just go out and, vent it all out after the person's dead. Those are pretty rare, though. Most of the time, those will just be the little short ones that said, Bob Smith Jones from Kuna, Idaho, passed away on such a day. They don't even necessarily, anyway, death notice. And I've seen that where I've known the person personally. I'm not saying just because you put a death notice, there's no love. I also understand obituaries are crazy expensive, and I don't even know how we got off on obituaries here. But my point is, there's something to be said for people who find gratitude in life. All of this, I want to be that person that finds gratitude. And I want to live in a place of gratitude. I don't know who that bitter Aaron was. It's like my mind will try to sometimes reach out, and I don't know why, but it'll try to identify with the old part of me or something. And it's like, you did what? You want to say what? Like the new Aaron, this part of Aaron 1.735, I don't know. Part of me that's learning that I don't want to be bitter anymore, and I want to find gratitude. Oh, I know I'm rambling. This is what I got to do today. I'm going to Grangeville. Part of my bucket list. I talk about that often, about going places. I have a reoccurring bucket list of things that I want to go do in places, and I just chip at them from time to time. And Whitebird, Idaho. This is down below me, and this is Whitebird Hill, and I'm going up and over to Grangeville. See if I can find me a cold root beer somewhere, and then I'm going to head on home. I appreciate you joining me between the horns. I'm not sure if I'll come back on and put anything on the end of this or not, but I still got 130 miles today, so very likely I'll come back on here. But if I don't, this is Between the Horns. I'm Aaron Horn. I love you guys. Blessings. Hello. Between the Horns. Between the Horns. Aaron Horn. We're still on this journey. Still on this journey. We are heading south now instead of north. Last time I was on this last one, I was at Whitebird Hill heading up the old highway, the old Whitebird. That's a windy road. I mentioned it's 2,700 feet and 7 miles or something. It comes out to about 7% grade. It's steep. Corners are banked like NASCAR. It's pretty cool. It makes you wonder how those crazy cars that they had years ago would have driven those. But anyway, it was fun. I climbed up there. That was a bucket list item. I went on to Grangeville. Hadn't been there in a long time. That was a summer bucket list thing. I wanted to do that this summer. I made it. Or not summer, but I made it. And then I've been hungry for. I don't live somewhere near Chinese food, so I've been hungry for some Chinese food. Well, I stopped in Grangeville and had some, it was delicious. I had sweet and sour chicken and pork fried rice. I hit the spot. While I was sitting there, I got to looking at the map, and I'm like, I'm a handful of miles away from another one of my bucket list items. I was going to Harpster, Idaho. I met a lady a few years ago that had been there. She was telling me about it, how much she liked it. I just wanted to go and see it. Personally, I was underwhelmed, but I don't know. It was a quiet little town. There wasn't but one place there. It's a little store and a restaurant bar. It's an RV park, actually. So I don't know. It wasn't what I expected. But I got it off my bucket list, so it's something that I, may or may not ever go through, or whatever. But it's definitely something I got to see, an experience, to say the least. And then I left there. I left Harpster, went back, started back south, ended up back in Grangeville, and I went to Lake Tolo. It's kind of southwest of town there, however you'd say it. There's this little tiny lake. I've heard about it before. They found mammoth bones multiple times. They found mammoth bones there, and tusks and different things. But 1994, they were dredging it to make it a little deeper, and they came across a bunch more. And so I've read about it before. I've heard about it before. I've never been there. Again, I was purely from a pull up in your vehicle, I was underwhelmed. It's just a pretty little lake. And it's out in the middle of nowhere. There's just trees around it. There's a couple fishing access points, it looks like. Trails, a couple trails, restrooms. Anyway, again, never been there. I've read about it, like I said, heard about it, never been there. I went today. Probably wasn't the best day to pick, as far as getting out and walking. It's been pretty cold. It's been raining all day. It's been bearable, but it's maybe not. I don't know. I still think it was a great day, so there we are. I am filled with gratitude. This whole experience today, it's still not over. Maybe the bulk of the content for me, what I was wanting to see today, is mostly just driving back now. With that being said, we still have, I'm guessing 80 plus miles to go. So southbound and down, loaded up and trucking. Boys are crashed out. They're laying beside each other down here in the seat. They're crashed. Love you guys. That's it for today. Between the Horns. I'll post some pictures at the end of this video and share those with you. So, blessings. Between the Horns. Just try it. Just try finding a little gratitude, seeing if it doesn't start to change something. Love you guys. Blessings. Between the Horns. Aaron Horn. Until next time.